What's poppin', y'all? Complex put out their list once again for the Hip Hop Media Power Rankings, which I really like that they put out this list. It's very, what the hell is wrong with my voice? It's very, very entertaining. I do think they're pretty solid with it. So we're going to go down the list one by one. I do think they hold Akademiks this year. I'm not going to lie, but we'll get there when they get there. So at 25, so yeah, get some popcorn or something. This is probably going to be a long one. At 25, they've got this guy, Jon Caramanica, who I was not familiar with. So for his stats, it's like less than 40K on IG, like 33.5K on IG. And I like the fact that they put the memorable moments here. This guy's a New York Times writer. He was previously a journalist, which I do think is underrated. Everyone says like, yo, writing is antiquated. Nah, not really. Like people that are able to write well. It's just that most people are not consuming writing. So that's where I get what they're saying. But writing in itself, especially someone that's a good writer, it's one of the greatest forms of consumption. If you can really, because person has to, a lot of writing is just rewriting and deleting and getting rid of a bunch of stuff that's not going to happen when someone is just speaking. But this guy had a huge moment, which is the Clips interview this year. I think that in and of itself is enough. But after I did like a cursory overlook at his IG page, he's got these really interesting segments. He's got like Song of the Week. He's able to get these guests and have interviews, like for example with Addison Rae, who is a pop star now. So he's able to get access because of his history in the industry, but he's also venturing out into our world, which is more of this like short form content, not our world as in like what I make, but he's updating himself. Just off the back of him having that Clips interview though, where a lot of information was spilled and it was a really dense interview and a great interview, I think he deserves some sort of position here, which they didn't give him last year. So I don't have any problem with that. Zias B Lou at number 24. With all due respect, I would not put these guys here at all this year. I would say Zias and B Lou are up there in the streamer content creator power rankings of the past year. But for hip hop, I think they haven't really been too focused on it. Like they're always going to react to things, right? Because just look at their most memorable moments. Reacting to being mentioned in the Drake lawsuit. You know who was also mentioned in the Drake lawsuit? Like No Life Shaq. He was one of them. I don't know if Dante was mentioned, but I would potentially put Dante instead of Zias and B Lou for this current year, because I think Dante has done more hip hop related stuff than Zias and B Lou, and they're just reacting to 1900 Rugrat One Take Freestyle. It's like I wouldn't necessarily put them here. They had a lot of collaborations with rappers back in the day, so I think they were. I don't think it makes sense. That's it. I don't think it makes sense this year. I do think they are up there. I would say they're top 10. They're for sure top 25 streamer, content creator personalities of this year, for sure. Especially with the whole like them discovering things or like playing dumb. Like they've really got a large following and brand off of that, which is like further away from the hip hop, which is what they came up in, and their personalities, of course. So I would say that I think they can put someone else in here instead of Zias and B Lou, and I think they put them because of just their history, which I don't think is fair for the current year. Then they've got Arshan on here from KTO, Kids Take Over. If there is actually, and I've got an interview with Arshan in the archives from like 4 or 5 years ago that I've never uploaded. Funny enough, that's it can't even be lost media if it was never uploaded, right? But I think this is a solid pick. I'm glad he's here. He got put on last year. I think I remember talking about last year, but I didn't remember him being last year. But he had that Lucky interview that went crazy. I think even one of those Lucky clips, I did a video on that, but one of those Lucky clips got reposted by Drake. And I think he's done a good job of being able to curate his interviews as moments, which is something very difficult to do without the budget and the resources of a major media company like a Complex or any number of other companies that are going to like invest money into something. And I do think being a little bit rarer has allowed that to develop for his brand. So it's I have thumbs up here for sure. Angela Yee, Jim Jones interview, a Rob 49 interview on Lip Service, Lupe Fiasco. Y'all know I love Lupe Fiasco, but I just think Angela Yee, like, she's doing her thing. They dropped her from last year from like 17 to 22. So I think she's a fine pick. I do think that she had that moment which I do think should be a moment where the Mexican OT got a little too relaxed and shared controversial views on the N-word, comments he'd later have to walk back. I think that was a big moment for this year, a big conversation. Jim Jones has been doing the rounds, but she's not a heavy hitter, so I understand her being at 22. Heavy hitter within hip-hop, because since she's been doing her own thing outside of the Breakfast Club. So I don't have a problem with her being here. Bootleg Kev. What did he do this year? He had the Joey interview. Joey interview was post-beef with, post-rap battle, you could call it, with West Coast, Ray Vaughn, him trying to get attention, or just really him trying to get Kendrick's attention and let people know, yo, I can really rap. I like Bootleg Kev. He's an independent guy doing his own thing, although he did come from a background within the industry. He is doing a wide range of content. I think he belongs here. They dropped him from 14 to 21. I would say last year he had bigger moments than this year, but that's fair. Big Boy at number 20. Yeah, they got him doing the Mustard post-Super Bowl interview, the Marlon Wayans, the Diddy verdict breakdown. I think Big Boy didn't. Big Boy is just one of those people that's been consistent for so long. Like some years, if there's more happening, then Big Boy is a little bit higher. Some years, if there's less happening, maybe Big Boy's a little bit lower. But Big Boy has to be here. Nadeska is, I don't know why she got put on there last year, to be fair. Now, Nadeska is an example of somebody that is the industry in a nutshell, like in terms of like, oh, work your way up the industry. Nadeska's done that for over 10 years. And this year, I would say she deserved it more than last year. So I'm surprised that last year's rankings, she's in the same position. But there's just a stacked ranking this year. And they mainly gave it to her for Kendrick Lamar interview pre-Super Bowl that they got because Apple Music was sponsoring the Super Bowl. So there I would say like that in itself was the first interview that Kendrick Lamar did post-beef after washing Drake. So that is a very, very big deal in history. And that was one video interview. The rest were like maybe text or something like that. So Nadeska got to get that. She looked very, very nervous. And of course, it was a bit of a softball interview. It's like a company thing, right? It makes sense why they didn't ask crazy questions in the lead up to the Super Bowl. So I think she earned this position. DDG at number 18. DDG potentially, yeah, dude. DDG had a hit-a-thon where he was streaming. And this is the thing. They said most memorable moments in the past year. Streaming with Bad Baby, making pink dreads with Plaqueboy Max. I think Diddy's most impressive, memorable moment is recording an album live. Like he had Rob 49 on there. Bia, DaBaby, Kevin Gates. Everyone that he recorded with pulled up on stream. He also had the guy that had the Tipsy song, Shabuzi. He had Shabuzi on there. He had everybody. Now Shabuzi's not like a hip hop. He's not really a rapper, but this guy's doing it all. He's at the Drake Wireless show covering it. So he's a rapper. He's rapping. He's collaborating with rappers. He's making albums on streaming. He's doing entertainment. He's covering events like Drake Wireless. So overall, DDG, deserves to be on here. And he went from not being on there to being on here. They docked a lot of points on Elliot Wilson because he's coming in at number 17. And now he's doing his own Elliot Wilson experience, but he's also sparking up debates with people like him and Cameron went at it, Joey Badass and Ray Vaughn. I really think him calling out Travis Scott, during the Kendrick and Drake beef, I think that's why they gave him like the top 5, because he was right in the middle of that beef. He had issues with Drake. He also had a strong relationship with Drake. That Drake Rap Radar interview is one of the most, it's a moment, it's an artifact in hip hop history. But now he's doing this Hip Hop DX show. He also had like some tension with his former host B Dot that he got into it with, and we heard that conversation on the Joe Budden podcast. So him being at 17, I think a lot of it carries over from his past. I'm not going to lie. This year, I wouldn't put him at 17. I would put him below DDG. I would put him below Nadeska. I would put him below Big Boy. I would put him below Bootleg Kev. So I'd probably put him at 21. I would put him above Angela Yee, certainly. So that's where I would put Elliot if I had to, but he would have to be here. Now, DJ Head being at number 16, who wasn't even there last year, is crazy because he was instrumental in delivering a lot of information during the beef. He's the closest guy to Kendrick, but I think they put him here because he's a co-host with Elliot on The Bigger Picture. They've got this show together, but this is the thing. Their show is not real. It's not making waves like that. You could look up the numbers yourself and see how it does. And this guy, he's given a lot of his opinions. He had that debate with Mal, which I do think was a good debate, where he's like, yo, why are you defending Drake so hard? And he's like, yo, that's my man. That's why I'm debating him. He had that interview with Wale this year. I think non-Kendrick related, I do think this guy got on because of the Kendrick beef. And I don't mean got on as he was nothing and he was just walking around the street before this. Of course, he had his own thing going on in LA, but a lot of people came to be aware of him via the Kendrick Drake beef. However, he leveraged that into a good career now. And 80% of what people are listening to him for is Kendrick related stuff, but he managed to get himself a position opposite Elliot, and Elliot's an East Coast guy, and you've got this West Coast guy, and I do think that dynamic works well. So if they didn't put him on here last year, I don't see why they would put him on here this year. Maybe they're just saying like, yo, we kind of messed up last year by not having him. It's iffy, but I will say I don't have a problem with him being here, but I would put him below Elliot. So I would put him at 22. I would switch these 16, 17. I would put Elliot ahead of DJ Head, but that's just being a little bit nitpicky. And this is where I don't get why they separated them, because in the next chapter, on the list, we got Jadakiss and Fat Joe at number 15. So they put Jadakiss and Fat Joe together, but then they put DJ Head and Elliot Wilson one after the other. It's like, yo, the hell? I said this maybe a month or two ago about Fat Joe. I said, yo, this guy came in, he blew a cap. Once he got into the podcast game, he knew exactly what to do. First thing he did was when he was talking about, yo, I couldn't be like Joe Budden with my enemy sitting behind me when it was 50 Cent at the Knicks game. Or no, 50 Cent was in front of him. He had closer seats than Joe Budden. And Joe Budden was like the broke guy. And they got into a conversation about that. That became a whole thing. Fat Joe also talking about the Jim Jones and Nas situation. He started that conversation, which was a conversation that's been going on for, hell, I think it probably died down, but some weeks, that's what a lot of people were talking about. He talked about the Justin Bieber story, about how they were trying to get him to bail him out of jail one night. And that severed his relationship with JB because JB wasn't trying to hear anything. He was just trying to be a gangster. And these guys have had really great moments. Now, I don't know if the podcast is doing as great as the clips or the conversations that it starts. But if we're just talking about what they're putting out there and how it's spreading and creating conversation within hip hop, they are certainly doing that. So I don't have a problem with them being at number 15. Actually, I think they should be higher and not just switch spots with number 14, who's Shannon Sharpe. Man, get Shannon Sharpe the hell out of here, with all due respect. Like, Shannon Sharpe, he had that conversation with Jim Jones about hip-hop, but just look, most memorable moments, 2 Chainz interview, Kai Cenat interview. Dog, what? Kai Cenat's not a rapper? Like, Shannon Sharpe has one of the biggest shows, right? Of course. But nobody is looking at Shannon Sharpe for anything hip-hop related. This is not a hip-hop show. He is in the sports realm. Maybe you could even say general commentary if you want to take it that far. But hip hop, nah, dog. I guess Shannon Sharpe is not. He should not be on this list. Put somebody else there. You could even separate Jadakiss and Fat Joe. Nah, I do think you have to keep them together. Trap Lil Ross at number 13. They graduated him from number 20. And I think this is an interesting one to put on here. It's good to see somebody that's just straight up independent media doing his own thing. YouTube more than anything else. And doing just long form content. Now, here and there, I do think he's doing streams and appearances on No Jumper and stuff like that. I will say, I'm interested on, he had he had the Diddy documentary, the Lil Durk one, the Central C. He has these documentaries and stories. I do think the Central C one was probably the biggest one in terms of people being shown a side of Central C that we didn't know about as consumers of mostly American rap. Like maybe some people in the UK knew about that stuff, but in the US they didn't. And that was when Central C was blowing up in the US, and he got into a back and forth with some lady that used to work at Sony, and they were part of the team that had signed Central C. So I think it's good to have somebody with this specific just skill set and content output on here that we're not seeing anybody else do. Like what Trap Lil Ross is doing is unlike anybody else on this list. Same thing with Fat Joe. What Fat Joe and Jadakiss are doing is unlike anybody else. Shannon Sharpe shouldn't even be here, but yeah, I think this is solid. Them graduating him up to 13 is really impressive. It's quite impressive. And then you've got Ebro. Ebro is a staple. I don't care what anybody says, and I'm somebody that is. There have been times where I've seen an Ebro take that should enrage me, but I don't listen to him enough to get enraged by it. But I just have such a high level of respect for Ebro because he will say his opinion and he will hold on to his opinion, and that's it. That's all there is to it. And he stands firm on it. He's at Apple Music now. He's still doing the stuff at Hot 97. And he also did the pre-Super Bowl interview with Kendrick. Like I said, he should have had that position anyway, the same way Nadeska did. Now, I will say Ebro's put in many more years than Nadeska, but Ebro, he's a staple. That's all there is to it. It's like a staple food. Ebro, Big Boy, these guys are still doing their thing. I don't really know too much about Sway. That's where I'm wondering. Like, Sway was a staple. Where is Sway on this list? What has Sway been up to? I'm not saying Sway should be on this list. I'm just saying I lost touch of what Sway's been doing. And you've got Nore at number 11. Nore is... I don't feel like Nore should be on here this year. I don't know what's been going on with Drink Champs. It seemed like it was a little bit... I don't know where it's at right now. And they're even saying Drink Champs sits in the bronze position when Nore was talking about there are only 3 podcasts that matter. Joe Budden, $1 Million Worth of Game, and Drink Champs. I feel like $1 Million Worth of Game and Drink Champs are not what they looked like they were to us 2 years ago. And the reason why I say they're not what they looked like they were to us versus they're not what they were is because I do believe that there was a lot of behind the scenes manipulation of numbers with those podcasts in particular because of the ad networks that they were a part of. Like, you got to think the $1 Million Worth of Game was with, what's that guy, the pizza reviewers company, Barstool Sports, and then you had Drink Champs with Revolt. So I don't know how much of Drink Champs was benefiting from Diddy being free. Because Diddy free and Diddy after the Cassie video for Drink Champs look completely different. It looked completely different. So even with like an hour-long interview, for example, with Max B, I just don't feel like these guys should be at the same position that they were last year. They need to get demoted. Or Nore, I should say. Gillie Wallo at number 10. I'm not mad at it. They've been doing the same thing that they've been doing since the previous year. And that's just consistency right there. They also sat with 50 Cent. I do think that in itself was a really, really big moment. that should be enough to at least keep them around the same where they were at last year. But I don't think Nore should be this close to Gillie and Wallo in the current year. Rory and Mal be in top 10. Hell yeah. Now, I don't watch these guys' stuff. I see a lot of the clips. They're killing it. They are killing it. They were gassed up when they first got out of Joe Budden's podcast and people were fake supporting them, and then they fell off a cliff, and then they just kept it going. They kept it grinding. They were able to get some deals. I don't even know how. Somehow Mal became really, really close with Drake, and they got a lot of information ahead of time. During the Drake and Kendrick beef, they gave a lot of coverage. They've been consistent. They've been working hard. They are killing it right now. So they had a peak. They fell really hard, and then they've built it back up. Now, I would say, are they at a higher peak than when they first left Joe Budden? I would say they're around there. I wouldn't say they've passed that level of hype because you can't really recreate that, but they're around that same level, which was a very high level. So I really do think these guys are great, or they deserve to be here. I don't think they're great, actually. I don't know too much of their takes to give them like that type of a cosign. Anthony Fantano at number 8, they gave him the same ranking as last year. I do like that they said in-depth YouTube reviews and snarky but informed commentary. Snarky is a very, very good word to describe a lot of things that Anthony Fantano does. He's just been doing this for so long, and he has not slowed up. You've never heard of an Anthony Fantano break. Like, yo, I'll see you guys in a couple of months. I'm going to chill out for a little bit. He's only done more. And the clips let God sort him out, like him getting shouted out by Pusha T for that is impressive. And people always talk about how he never gave Ye a 10, but he gave Kids See Ghosts a 10, which Kids See Ghosts really did deserve a 10. That thing is amazing. At number 7, we've got Nardwuar. Just consistency, right? Chief Keef, they've got him on here for the Chief Keef interview, Tyler the Creator interview, Yeet interview. Tyler the Creator, I think him and Nardwuar create such great moments because he has such a fondness for Nardwuar, and I think he appreciates the level of research and love of music that Nardwuar has in the same way that we know Tyler the Creator is obsessed with music and its history and how it's made and all of that. So they create these great moments together. We also had the moment with Timothy Chalamet, or Chalamet, I don't even know how it's pronounced or it's supposed to be pronounced. But they were talking about Lil B together, and you could tell that Timothy was a fan of Nardwuar growing up too. So Nardwuar is just killing it, man. That's all there is to it. Also, just an independent guy that's doing his own thing for 15 plus years, just showing up to a show with a mic, prepared, and has his own classic format. Vlad at number 6, they got him in the same position as last year. I will say, outside of hip hop, Vlad, I've been watching a lot of Vlad lately and a lot of non-hip-hop interviews. He's been getting such a variety of guests with such interesting stories that I went back and bought the Vlad membership, like the $5 thing, so I could watch them early. But because I had it for a while when it first came out, and then I just didn't watch anything Vlad related for months. I was like, why do I still have this thing? So I stopped maybe towards the end of last year. But he did a lot of interviews with those Diddy people, which I guess you could say is like hip-hop related. He was getting damn near anybody that had anything to do with Diddy interviewed. And that worked out well for him. But he's also pushing it to outside of hip-hop as well, which doesn't matter for this ranking. But that's just a personal take that I have to add to Vlad. Charlamagne at number 5. I don't know why they said a memorable moment here was interviewing Neon on The Breakfast Club when they don't even have Neon on here, which is something that I'm going to get. Well, actually, I'll get into it right now. I think Neon is not on this list. I think he should be on this list. Like, you could take out Zias B Lou and put Neon. Neon's done more streams with rappers and interesting things and the Jello Tweaker situation than anybody else that's a streamer, content creator that they have on here. So Neon should be on here, I would say, instead of Zias B Lou. Maybe even instead of Dante, because he's actually really out there. And Dante's primarily a streamer. Charlamagne being here is just, it makes sense. That's it. That's all there is to it. Like, Charlamagne, top 5, of course. Plaqueboy Max being number 4 after not being here last year just shows you how fast people can blow up. Like, he had a big song with Pink Dreads. That went crazy. his In the Booth series, him doing the Central C thing, him, Lil TJ 504 situation. I think 504 is still locked up. We haven't heard from him since then. And since after that, I think Lil TJ also got banned from Madison Square Garden as well. So he has been crushing it, not just in the making music realm, but also in streaming and still doing the hip hop stuff. This is a hip hop streamer. Like if someone is like, yo, what does a hip hop streamer look like? Plaqueboy Max is definitively a hip hop streamer. And him rising through the ranks at number 4, excellent positioning. And I'm looking forward to see what else he does in the coming years. Joe Budden at number 3. This guy's making $1 million a month off of hip hop. Come on. Why? How could we not? But yeah, him comment. He was talking about the Diddy stuff. He was also going back and forth with Drake. He's just more a brand than he is just hip hop. But he covers everything hip hop, and he talks a lot about the music. Like for instance, recently he's been talking about like this one Wale song that came out, and he was reviewing it, and he was saying how great it was. So I wouldn't necessarily call him old guard, but he's somebody that's covering a lot of rap for a certain demographic. Like he's not going to be talking about an Osama son, for instance, right? Or anybody on the XXL freshman list, really, for the most part. Here and there, he'll cover somebody that he likes if he finds a song by them. But he is somebody that is, top 3 in this game right now, top 5, certainly. And he's been consistent with it, too. Akademiks at number 2. Now, this was Diddy coverage. He was there every single day with the Diddy coverage. He was showing out and meeting up with people, or did a stream with people when the Diddy thing was almost over that he was watching that were independent people inside there. I think he could have tried to get into the court building, which I think he just decided not to do because he's a little bit lazy. He's a little bit on the lazy end with that. He could have figured out a situation to get into court. And then just imagine like the court streams in between. That would have been legendary, especially with his own commentary of what he's seeing in front of him. But I could get not doing that because why would he do that and go through all that effort when he can just chill at the crib and do what he's already been doing? So, and it still worked out great. And this is also another thing. The Ye interview was that's just a moment in history. That's a stamped moment. That's something, if it happened in 1850, him standing with Ye in that interview and he's got that black hood on, it's a snapshot moment that they would have had as like a photograph in black and white. And we would have still been seeing it in different, I don't know about museums, but that was one of the craziest moments to ever happen. And the way that it happened and how he described it came together, all of that was wild. So that's why I'm like, how did he not get number 1? Who did get number 1? And the person that got number 1 was Kai Cenat. Dog, what? Kai Cenat, not only did he give Jack Boys 2 a 9.5, which many people felt was criminal, but Kai Cenat himself said that he didn't really grow up on hip-hop like that. He's Michael Jackson. I will say Kai Cenat is a hip-hop streamer, whether or not he wants to admit or have the title and the responsibility that people will bestow upon him for calling himself hip-hop, where they're like, yo, how do you give this album this and not give this album this, which is one of the worst things that people who review music get, which is, I've never been a music reviewer. But he's had just so many moments. Like, for example, the hype and the build-up to music being released. Like, he was instrumental in that. Like, telling Playboi Carti, like, yo, when are you going to drop? When he was at I don't know if it was the Grammys, but him doing live coverage of the Grammys. Him meeting Ye at the Grammy red carpet. Him, the music drop, right? Him getting FaceTimed by Carti or DM by Carti in real time that whole night leading up to music being dropped. And then also, what was it? All the events that he goes to, him like talking to Ye back and forth. He's always listening to the music, him collaborating with rappers consistently, which is a little bit less than it was. Hey, like you said, 400,000 viewers plus when Carti, I think, called him. He brought Carti out. Or Carti brought him out, and he chose to bring other streamers as well to his performance at Rolling Loud front row, which is something that Drake adopted after that. And he took these people to wireless. So that just goes to show with that one. So Kai Cenat for sure should be in the top 5, but ahead of Akademiks? Like, nothing that Kai Cenat did here compares to one moment. Akademiks interviewing Ye with that hood in one of the most controversial, chaotic moments of the entire, hell, you could say decade. This guy's on a crazy rant. His chick was like leaving him or something, but the Diddy case is going on. You find out that he was doing these FOs too, freak offs too, Ye, with, allegedly, he was allegedly doing these with Daphne Joy, who's 50 Cent's baby mama, but Ye and 50 are supposed to be cool. So it's like all of this crazy stuff. And then, of course, how controversial Ye is, the Double H song. And before that drops, Akademiks has that one interview with him. Like, dog, that deserves number 1. More than anything that Kai Cenat has done. But let me know what y'all think about that in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. And I'm going to see y'all on the next one.